Jake Morrison gripped the controls of his fighter ship as red warning lights flashed across his cockpit. The engine was making a terrible grinding sound that no pilot ever wanted to hear. Smoke filled the small space around him, and he could taste the bitter smell of burning metal and plastic. "Come on, Lightning Strike, stay with me," he said to his ship, trying to keep his voice calm even though his heart was racing. The Wasp-class interceptor had been his home for the past 2 years, and he knew every sound it made. This was not good. The main engine sputtered and died completely. Jake felt his stomach drop as the ship began to fall toward the planet below. He had been on a simple patrol mission near the edge of human space, just checking for any signs of hostile activity. It was supposed to be boring work, the kind of mission that junior pilots complained about. Now Jake would have given anything to be bored. He looked down at the planet rushing up to meet him. It was brown and orange, covered in what looked like endless desert. No cities, no signs of life, no landing strips, just rock and sand stretching to the horizon. The planet wasn't even on most star charts. It was just listed as Kepler 442c, a dead world that nobody cared about. Jake switched to emergency power and tried to restart the engine. Nothing happened. He tried again, pumping the fuel manually. Still nothing. The engine was completely dead, and he was falling fast through the thin atmosphere. "Emergency beacon activated," he said into his radio, though he doubted anyone would hear him out here. "This is Captain Jake Morrison, call sign Lightning 7. My ship is going down on planet Kepler 442c. Engine failure. I repeat, engine failure. If anyone can hear this, I'm about to crash." Static was his only answer. Jake focused on the controls, trying to glide the ship down rather than letting it fall like a rock. The atmosphere was thin, which meant less drag but also less control. He had to time this perfectly. Too steep and he would hit the ground too hard. Too shallow and he would skip off the atmosphere back into space where he would die slowly instead. Of quickly, the ground was coming up fast now. Jake could see individual rocks and sand dunes. He picked a spot that looked relatively flat and aimed for it. The ship shook violently as it hit the upper atmosphere. Jake's teeth rattled in his head, and he bit his tongue hard enough to taste blood. Come on, he muttered, fighting with the controls. The ship wanted to spin, but he managed to keep it somewhat straight. The landing gear was damaged, so he would have to belly land on the desert floor. The first impact threw Jake forward against his safety harness so hard that he saw stars. The ship bounced once, twice, then skidded across the sand, leaving a long trail behind it. Metal screamed against rock. Sparks flew past the cockpit window. Jake held on tight and waited. For it to stop dot when it finally did, the silence was almost as shocking as the crash had been. Jake sat still for a moment, checking to make sure all his parts were still attached. His left shoulder hurt, and he had a cut on his forehead that was bleeding into his eye. But he was alive. That was more than he had expected a few minutes. Jake popped the cockpit canopy and climbed out onto the wing of his ship. The lightning strike looked terrible. The nose was crumpled, one wing was bent at an odd angle, and the engine was completely destroyed. Black smoke poured from the back of the ship. This bird would never fly again. He jumped down to the ground and looked around. The desert stretched away in all directions, empty and hostile. The sun was bright and hot, even though it was smaller than Earth's sun. Jake guessed the temperature was somewhere around 100 degrees. His flight suit would protect him. For a while, but not forever. Jake went back to the ship and gathered what he could from the wreckage. His emergency kit had survived the crash, though the case was cracked. Inside he found 3 bottles of water, some food bars that looked and tasted like cardboard, a small medical kit, and a survival blanket. His emergency beacon was damaged, but still working, sending out a weak signal that probably wouldn't reach anyone for weeks. He also grabbed his sidearm, a standard military pistol with 2 extra clips. Jake didn't expect to run into any hostile aliens on this dead world, but it made him feel better to have it. His father had taught him to shoot when he was just a kid, and old habits died hard. The ship's computer was still working on backup. Power. Jake pulled up what information it had about the planet. Kepler 442c was about the same size as Earth, but it had a much thinner atmosphere and no signs of water or life. The gravity was a little lighter than Earth normal, which would help him conserve energy. The day-night cycle was about 30 hours, which meant he had maybe 10 hours of daylight left. Well, lightning strike. Looks like we're stuck here for a while, Jake said to his ship. Talking to machines was a habit he had picked up during long patrol missions. It helped him think. He gathered his supplies and started walking away from the crash site. The ship's fuel cells might explode, and he didn't want to be nearby when that happened. He picked a direction that looked like it might lead to higher ground and started walking. The sand was soft and hard to walk through. Jake's boots sank in with each step, and soon his legs were burning with effort. The sun beat down on his head, and sweat ran down his face. He took small sips of water from one of his bottles, knowing he had to make it last after about an hour of walking. Jake stopped to rest in the shade of a large rock. He was already tired, and he had barely started. If rescue didn't come soon, he was going to die on this empty world. The thought should have scared him, but Jake had been a pilot long enough to know that death was always a possibility. He just hadn't expected it to be so hot and slow. As he sat there, something caught his eye. In the distance, maybe 2 miles away, there were some rock formations that looked strange. They were too regular, too geometric to be natural. Jake squinted at them through the heat haze. They almost looked like they had been carved by intelligent hands. Jake stood up and looked more carefully. The rocks were arranged in perfect lines and angles, like some kind of pattern or design, on a planet that was supposed to be completely dead. That was very interesting. Maybe there had been life here once. Maybe there still was. He checked his water supply. He had enough for maybe 2 days if he was careful. The emergency beacon was still working, but it would probably take a week or more for any rescue ship to reach him, if they even got his signal. He could sit here and wait to die. Or he could investigate those strange rocks. Maybe he would find something useful. Maybe he would find answers. Jake picked up his pack and started walking toward the geometric rock formations. The sand was still soft, and the sun was still hot, but now he had a destination. For the first time since the crash, he felt a tiny spark of hope. As he walked, Jake noticed more strange things about the landscape. Some of the rocks had smooth surfaces that reflected the sunlight in odd ways. Others had what looked like symbols carved into them, though they were too worn and weathered to read. This place had definitely been touched by intelligence, even if that intelligence was long gone. The walk took him the rest of the day. By the time he reached the strange rocks, the sun was starting to set, painting the desert in shades of red and orange. Jake was exhausted, thirsty, and sunburned, but he had made it. Up close, the rock formations were even more impressive. They were definitely artificial, carved from the living stone by tools and techniques that Jake couldn't identify. The patterns were beautiful and complex, like mathematical equations written in stone. Whoever had made them had been very skilled and very patient. Jake set up his survival blanket between 2 of the larger rocks and settled in for the night. Tomorrow he would explore more. Tonight he would rest and wonder what kind of people had lived on this world and what had happened to them. Jake sat alone in his room on Haven Point, staring at the wall. 3 days had passed since he met Commander Zarathul, and he still did not know what to do. Her offer kept playing in his mind like a broken recording. Come with us. Become part of our family. Help build peace between our peoples. It sounded wonderful, but Jake knew it was not that simple. Nothing ever was. A knock on his door broke his thoughts. Come in, he said. Admiral Sullivan entered the room. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. She had been talking to Earth's government for 3 days straight, trying to figure out what to do about the Zephyrian offer. We need to talk, Sergeant, she said, sitting down in the chair across from him. I figured you'd want to, Jake said. What does Earth want me to do? Admiral Sullivan was quiet for a moment. Some people think you should go with them. They think it's a chance for peace, but others think it's a trap. What do you think? I think it's dangerous. You be alone on an alien world with no way to contact Earth if things go wrong. You be completely at their mercy. Jake nodded. He had thought about that too. But if I don't go, what happens to the chance for peace? Maybe there never was. A real chance. Maybe they're just using you to get their princess back. You don't trust them. Admiral Sullivan looked out the small window at the stars. I've fought Zephyrians for 10 years, Jake. I've seen what their weapons can do. I've lost good people to their attacks. Trust doesn't come easy, but you're willing to let me choose. Because it has to be your choice. If the government orders you to go or orders you to stay, it won't mean anything to the Zephyrians. They want you to choose freely, Jake understood. The Zephyrians valued honor and free choice. A forced decision would have no meaning to them. Theirs. Something else, Admiral Sullivan said. We've been monitoring Zephyrian communications. They're calling off their attacks on our colonies. All of them. They say it's a gesture of good faith while we consider their offer. That's good news, isn't it? Maybe. Or maybe they're just regrouping for a bigger attack. We don't know. After Admiral Sullivan left, Jake walked to the common area where Spark was playing with Dr. Hayes. The child had grown even more in the past few days. Being near her mother seemed to have given her new energy. Her skin was brighter, her movements were quicker, and she was learning human words at an amazing speed. Jake, she said when she saw him. It was one of the first English words she had learned. Her skin turned bright gold, and she ran to him on her long legs. Jake picked her up and hugged her. She was getting heavier, but she still felt small and fragile in his arms. Hello, little one. What are you learning today? Words, Spark said. Proudly, Dr. Hayes teaches me words. Dr. Hayes smiled. She's incredibly smart. She's learned 50 English words in 3 days. And she's been teaching me some Zephyrian words too. What did you learn? Well, Tho means mother, and means light or star. So Lyran means something like little star, and Morrison in Zephyrian sounds like Morthen, which means brave protector. Jake felt warm in his chest. She calls me that all the time. Morthen Jake, brave protector Jake. Spark looked up at Jake with those big eyes. Morthen Jake come home with Lyran? The question hit Jake like a punch in the stomach. She was asking him to come with her. In her own simple way. Her skin was soft purple, the color of love and hope. I don't know yet, little one, Jake said. It's a big decision. Spark's skin dimmed a little, but she nodded like she understood. She was only a child, but she was smart enough to know that adult decisions were complicated. That evening, Jake called his sister Amy on Earth. The communication delay was several minutes, but it was good to see her face on the screen. She was in her apartment in New York, and Jake could see the city lights behind her. Jake, Amy said when the call connected. I've been so worried about you. The news says you're meeting with aliens. I'm okay, Amy. Better than okay, actually. But I need to talk to you about something important. Jake told his sister about Zarathul's offer. He explained about Spark being a princess, about the chance for peace, about the choice he had to make. Amy listened without interrupting, her face getting more and more worried. You want to go, don't you? She said when he finished. Part of me does. Spark needs me, Amy. She's just a little girl in a big, scary universe. And if I can help stop the war, maybe all the people who died won't have died for nothing. But you be leaving Earth forever. Maybe not forever, but for a long time, yes. Amy was quiet for a moment. On the screen, Jake could see tears in her eyes. You saved my life once, remember? When I was 8 and fell through the ice on Miller's Pond, you jumped in after me even though you could barely swim. Jake remembered. It had been winter, and Amy had been playing on the frozen pond when the ice broke. Jake had been 12, And he had not thought about the danger. He had just jumped in to save his little sister. "You've always been like that," Amy continued. "You see someone who needs help, and you help them, even when it's dangerous, even when it costs you something. This is different, Amy. This isn't just about one person. This could affect the whole human race. I know. And that's why I think you should go." Jake was surprised. "Really? Really? You're not a politician or a general. You're just a good man who does the right thing. Maybe that's exactly what this situation needs. I'd miss you." Amy smiled through her tears. "I'd miss you too. But I'd rather have a brother who's helping build peace than a brother who's safe, but wondering what might have been." The next day, Commander Zarathul returned to the station with a small group of her people. Jake met them in the same docking bay where they had first met. This time, Spark was with her mother, chattering away in a mixture of English and Zephyrian. "Have you made your decision?" Zarathul asked. "I have some questions first," Jake said. "Ask them? If I come with you, what exactly would I do? What would my role be?" Zarathul thought for a moment. "You would be Lyran's guardian and teacher. You would help her understand human culture and values. You would also be our ambassador to humanity, helping my people understand yours. And if the peace talks fail, if our peoples go back to war, then you would be protected as a member of my family. No Zephyrian would harm you, but I hope it will not come to that. What about visiting Earth? Could I ever come back?" "Of course. You would not be a prisoner. You would be family." Jake looked at Spark, who was listening to every word. Her skin was shifting between colors as she felt the emotions of the adults around her. Gold when she looked at Jake, purple when she looked at her mother, and red when she sensed tension in the conversation. "One more question," Jake said. "Why me? You could find someone more important, more qualified." Zarathul smiled, and Jake realized it was the first time he had seen her smile. "Because you are not important in the way humans measure importance. You have no political agenda. You seek no power or wealth. You simply did what was right because it was right. That is the kind of person we need." Jake walked over to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, his home. Somewhere else was the Zephyrian home world, alien and unknown. Between them was a choice that could change everything. He thought about all the people who had died in the war. Captain Rogers, who had always said that good soldiers protect the innocent. Martinez, who had dreamed of a galaxy where different species could work together. Johnson, who just wanted to get home to his family. He thought about his sister Amy, who believed in him even when he did not believe in himself. He thought about Dr. Hayes, who had shown him that understanding could grow between species. He thought about Admiral Sullivan, who was willing to trust his judgment even though she had her doubts. Most of all, he thought about Spark, Lyran, the little girl who called him Morthan Jake and trusted him completely. She needed someone to protect her, to help her grow up in a universe that was bigger and more complicated than any child should have to face. Jake turned back to Zarathul. "I'll go with you," he said, "but I have conditions. Name them." "I want regular communication with Earth. I want updates on the peace negotiations. And if this doesn't work out, if your people decide they don't want peace after all, I want safe passage home." "Agreed," Zarathul said immediately. Spark ran to Jake and wrapped all 4 arms around his waist. Her skin was so bright with joy that it hurt to look at. "Morthan Jake comes home," she said in English. Jake picked her up and held her close. "Yes, little one, I'm coming home with you." As he held the alien child who had become like a daughter to him, Jake felt a peace he had not known since Kepler Station. He was making the right choice. It was dangerous, and it was scary, and it would change his life forever, but it was right. And sometimes that was all a person could ask for. The space station called Haven Point was old and ugly. It had been built years ago as a place where different alien species could meet and trade. Now it was empty, except for a few maintenance robots and the humans who had come to prepare for the meeting. Jake stood at the window of his small room and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was the Zephyrian ship, waiting. In 2 hours, he would meet Commander Zarathul face to face. His hands were shaking, and his mouth felt dry. Spark sat on the bed behind him, playing with a small toy that Dr. Hayes had given her. It was a simple puzzle with colored blocks, but Spark had figured it out in minutes. Now she was making the blocks light up in patterns by touching them with her fingers. Her skin was bright gold, which meant she was excited. "Are you scared?" Jake asked her. Spark looked up at him and made soft sounds. Her skin changed to purple, then back to gold. She was happy but also nervous. Jake knew the feeling. Dr. Hayes came into the room. She had insisted on coming to the station, saying that Spark might need medical care. But Jake knew she was really here because she cared about the child too. "The Zephyrian ship is approaching," she said. "Admiral Sullivan wants to see you in the command center." Jake picked up Spark and she wrapped her 4 arms around his neck. She was purring softly, the way she did when she felt safe. They walked through the metal corridors of the station to the command center. The command center was full of humans in uniforms. Computer screens showed the space around the station, and Jake could see a bright dot moving toward them. The Zephyrian ship. Admiral Sullivan stood in the center of the room, watching the screens. She was a tall woman with gray hair and hard eyes. She had fought in many battles against the Zephyrians, and Jake could tell she did not trust them. "Sergeant Morrison," she said when she saw him. "Are you ready?" "As ready as I can be," Jake said. "Remember, you're not just representing yourself. You're representing all of humanity. Be careful what you say." Jake nodded. He felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. One wrong word could start a war or end a chance for peace. Bright dot on the screen was getting bigger. Soon Jake could see the shape of the Zephyrian ship. It was not like human ships, which were all angles and metal. This ship was smooth and curved, like something alive. It looked like it had grown, instead of being built. "It's beautiful," Dr. Hayes whispered. Admiral Sullivan did not look impressed. "Beauty doesn't stop plasma cannons," she said. The ship came closer and stopped near the station. It was much bigger than Jake had expected, maybe 10 times the size of the human transport that had brought them here. But it moved gently, like a sleeping whale in the ocean. "They're requesting permission to dock," said a young officer at one of the computers. "Granted," Admiral Sullivan said. "But keep our weapons ready." Jake felt Spark tense in his arms. Her skin was flashing between gold and red now. She was excited, but also scared. "She can sense her people," Dr. Hayes said. "She knows her mother is on that ship." An hour later, Jake stood in the station's main docking bay. He had put on his best uniform and polished his boots. Spark was in his arms, wearing a simple white dress that Dr. Hayes had found for her. She looked like any human child going to meet her mother. Except for the blue-green skin and the 4 arms, Admiral Sullivan stood beside Jake with 20 armed soldiers. The soldiers looked nervous. Their weapons were lowered, but Jake could see their fingers near the triggers. "Stay calm," Admiral Sullivan said. "Let them make the first move." The airlock doors opened with a soft hiss. Jake held his breath. The first alien to come through was tall and graceful, with long arms and legs. Its skin was darker than Spark's, more blue than green, and it wore something that looked like armor made of metal and fabric. It carried no weapons that Jake could see, but it moved like a soldier. Then came another alien and another. They formed a line on each side of the doorway, like guards of honor. Their skin patterns were calm blues and purples, which Jake had learned meant respect and peace. Finally, she came through the doorway. Commander Zarathul was taller than the other aliens, and her skin was beautiful. It was deep blue-green with silver patterns that moved like water. She wore robes that seemed to float around her, and on her head was something that might have been a crown or might have been part of her body. Jake could not tell, but it was her eyes that made Jake's breath catch. They were like Spark's eyes, but older and sadder. They were the eyes of a mother who had lost her child. When Zarathul saw Spark, her whole body changed. Her skin pattern shifted to bright gold, just like Spark's did when she was happy. She made a sound that was like singing and crying at the same time. Spark made the same sound back and reached out with all 4 arms toward her mother. "Lyran," Zarathul said. And Jake realized that was Spark's real name. Jake stepped forward, carrying Spark toward her mother. The human soldiers tensed, but Admiral Sullivan held up her hand to stop them. "Commander Zarathul," Jake said. "I am Sergeant Jake Morrison." Zarathul looked at him, and Jake felt like she was looking into his soul. Her eyes were intelligent and powerful, but also kind. When she spoke, her English was perfect, with no accent at all. "You are the one who saved my daughter," she said. Her voice was musical, like spark sounds but turned into words. "Yes," Jake said. "I found her hurt and scared. I couldn't leave her to die." Jake held Spark out toward her mother. The child was making excited sounds and reaching for Zarathul with all her arms. But Zarathul did not take her right away. Instead, she knelt down so she was at Jake's level. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you save an enemy child?" Jake thought about his answer. Everyone was watching him. The humans, the aliens, everyone was waiting to hear what he would say. "Because she wasn't my enemy," Jake said finally. "She was just a scared little girl who needed help. Where I come from, we protect children, all children." Zarathul stared at him for a long moment. Then she reached out and took Spark in her arms. The child made happy sounds and nuzzled against her mother's neck. Her skin was so bright with joy that it lit up the whole docking bay. "My daughter has told me about you," Zarathul said, still holding Spark close. "She speaks of you in her dreams. She calls you her protector." "She told you about me?" "Our people share memories and emotions through touch. When I held her just now, I saw everything. I saw you find her under the debris. I saw you carry her to safety. I saw you visit her every day at the research facility." Jake felt his face get warm. "I just wanted to make sure she was okay." Zarathul stood up, still holding Spark. "You have done more than save one child, Jake Morrison. You have saved the future of both our species. I don't understand. My daughter is not just any child. She is Lyran of the House of Stars, heir to the Zephyrian throne. She is my only child, and when I am gone, she will lead our people." Jake felt his knees go weak. He had saved an alien princess. No wonder the Zephyrians had come looking for her. "I thought she was dead," Zarathul continued. "When the station was attacked, my ship was damaged. I had to retreat, but I could not find Lyran. I searched for months. I sent scouts to every human world. I was ready to declare war on all of humanity to get her back. But you didn't," Jake said. "No, because my scouts brought me something interesting. They brought me recordings of human communications. Your news broadcasts, your military reports, your personal messages. I learned your language, and I learned about the human who saved an alien child." Zarathul walked closer to Jake. Spark was still in her arms, but she was reaching one hand toward Jake. She did not want to leave him behind. "I learned that humans are not what we thought," Zarathul said. "We thought you were cruel and violent, interested only in war and conquest. But you, Jake Morrison, you showed mercy to your enemy's child. You showed that humans can choose compassion over hatred." Admiral Sullivan stepped forward. "Commander, we appreciate the return of your daughter, but we need to discuss the future relationship between our peoples." Zarathul looked at the Admiral, then back at Jake. "Yes, we do need to discuss the future. But first, I have an offer for Sergeant Morrison." "What kind of offer?" Jake asked. "My daughter needs a guardian, someone to protect her and teach her about the galaxy. Someone who understands both human and Zephyrian ways. I offer you this position, Jake Morrison. Come with us to our home world. Become part of our family. Jake stared at her. You want me to come with you? My daughter loves you. She trusts you. And after what you have done, I trust you too. You could be a bridge between our peoples, helping us understand each other. Jake looked at Spark in her mother's arms. The child was looking at him with those big eyes, and her skin was cycling between gold and purple. Happy in love, she wanted him to come with her. What about the war? Jake asked. The war can end, Zarathul said. If humans and Zephyrians can learn to work together, if we can build trust instead of fear. You have already taken the first step by saving my daughter. Will you take the second step by helping us build peace? Jake looked around the docking bay. Admiral Sullivan looked worried. The soldiers looked confused. Dr. Hayes was smiling, and Jake thought she understood what this could mean. I need time to think, Jake said. Of course, Zarathul said. I will wait, but know this, Jake Morrison. You! Jake was sitting with Spark in her room when the alarm started. It was a Tuesday morning, and he had been reading to her from a children's book. She could not understand all the words, but she liked the pictures and the sound of his voice. Her skin was soft gold, which meant she was happy. The alarms were different from the ones at Kepler Station. These were deeper, more serious. They meant danger was coming to Earth itself. Dr. Hayes ran into the room, her face white with fear. Jake, we need to get to the emergency shelter. Now. What's happening? Jake stood up, and Spark wrapped her arms around his leg. She was making scared sounds, and her skin was turning red. A ship, Dr. Hayes said. An alien ship. It just appeared at the edge of the solar system. Jake felt ice in his stomach. Zephyrian? We think so. It's not attacking. But it's big, really big, and it's heading this way. Jake picked up Spark. She was shaking, and her skin was flashing between red and dark blue. It's okay, he whispered to her. I've got you. They ran through the halls of the research center. Other scientists were running too, all heading for the underground shelters. Jake had been through this drill before, but this time it was real. The Zephyrians had found Earth Dot in the shelter. Hundreds of people sat in rows of chairs. The room was underground, built to protect against bombing. The walls were thick concrete, and the air tasted stale. Children were crying, and adults were talking in quiet, scared voices. Jake found a seat in the back and held Spark close. She was trying to hide her glowing skin under her arms, but the light still showed through. Some people stared at her, but Jake did not care. He was more worried about what was happening outside. Attention everyone, a voice said over the speaker system. This is Admiral Kate Sullivan. We are tracking one alien vessel in our solar system. It has not made any hostile moves, but we are taking all precautions. Please remain calm and stay in the shelters until further notice. A man near Jake turned to his wife. One ship, he said. Just one? Maybe it's a scout. Or maybe it's a trap, the wife said back. Maybe there are more coming. Jake looked down at Spark. She was looking up at him with those big eyes, and her skin was still flashing red. She was terrified. Jake wondered if she could sense something about the ship that humans could not. Hours passed. People talked and worried and waited. Some tried to sleep, but most were too scared. Jake kept Spark calm by telling her stories and drawing pictures with her. She drew a picture of a big ship in space with smaller ships around it. Jake did not know if it was memory or imagination. Finally, Admiral Sullivan's voice came over the speaker again. We have received a message from the alien vessel. I will play it for you now. The shelter became very quiet. Even the children stopped crying. Then a voice came through the speakers. It was strange, musical, like singing. But then Jake heard something that made his blood freeze. The voice was speaking English. Perfect English, with no accent at all. People of Earth, the voice said. I am Commander Zarathil of the Zephyrian Royal Fleet. I come in peace. I have one request. Return my child, and I will speak with the human who saved her." The shelter exploded with sound. People were shouting and asking questions. Some were angry, some were scared, some were confused. Jake sat still, holding Spark tight. She was looking at him with wide eyes, and her skin was bright gold now. She was excited. "That's impossible," someone near Jake said. "How do they know?" "Our language?" "They've been listening to us," another person said. "They've been spying on us for years." Dr. Hayes pushed through the crowd and sat next to Jake. "They're talking about Spark," she said quietly. "And they're talking about you." Jake nodded. He had figured that out too. "How did they know?" "They must have been watching when you saved her. Or maybe she told them somehow." Jake looked at Spark. She was making soft sounds now, almost like she was trying to talk. Her skin was cycling through colors faster than he had ever seen. Gold, purple, blue, then back to gold. "She's trying to communicate," Dr. Hayes said. "With the ship." "Can she do that? From here? I don't know. Her species might have abilities we don't understand yet." The voice came through the speakers again. "I will wait at the edge of your solar system for 3 days. If my child is not returned, I will assume she has been harmed. I will then take appropriate action." The threat was clear, even though the voice stayed calm and musical. Jake felt Spark squeeze his hand with one of her small hands. She was looking at him like she was trying to tell him something important. Admiral Sullivan's voice came back on. "The alien vessel is maintaining position. We are discussing our response. Please remain calm." But people were not calm. They were getting angry and scared. Jake heard someone say, "We should send the alien back where it came from." Another person sighed, "We should use it as a hostage." "They're talking about her like she's a thing," Jake said to Dr. Hayes. "I know, but some people are scared. They don't see her the way you do." Jake looked around the shelter. He saw fear in every face. These people had lived through the war with the Zephyrians. They had lost friends and family. They had seen their colonies destroyed. To them, Spark was not a child. She was the enemy, but Jake had held her when she cried. He had watched her learn to draw and play with toys. He had seen her smile and laugh. She was just a little girl who missed her mother. "What do you think will happen?" Jake asked. Dr. Hayes was quiet for a long time. "The government will want to study the situation. They'll want to know why one ship came alone. They'll want to know if it's a trap. But eventually, they'll probably send her back. And what about me? The alien asked for you specifically. They know who you are. That's very unusual." Jake thought about this. How could they know about him? He was just a sergeant, not important enough for aliens to care about. Unless saving Spark had been more important than he thought. "Maybe her mother wants to thank you," Dr. Hayes said. "Or maybe she wants to kill me," Jake said. "I took her child away from her." Spark made a sound and touched Jake's face. Her skin was soft purple, the color that meant love. She was trying to tell him something, but he did not know what. The next day, Jake was called to a meeting with government officials. The meeting was in a big room with a long table. Men and women in expensive suits sat around it, looking serious. Admiral Sullivan was there too, still wearing her military uniform. "Sergeant Morrison," Admiral Sullivan said, "thank you for coming. We need to discuss the situation." Jake sat down at the table. He felt small and out of place among all these important people. "What do you want to know?" "Tell us about the alien child," said a woman in a blue suit. "How? Did you come to save her?" Jake told them the story again. He had told it many times now, but it never got easier. He told them about the evacuation, about finding Spark trapped under the debris, about his decision to save her. "Why did you save her?" asked the man with gray hair. "She was the enemy." "She was a child," Jake said. "A scared child who needed help. But you knew she was Zephyrian. You knew her people were trying to kill you. She wasn't trying to kill anyone." She was crying and hurt and alone. The officials looked at each other. Jake could tell they did not understand. To them, it was about politics and war and strategy. To Jake, it had been about doing what was right. "The alien commander wants to meet with you," Admiral Sullivan said. "We think it might be a trap, but we also think it might be an opportunity." "An opportunity for what?" "Peace," said the woman in blue. "If we can talk to them, maybe we can end this war." Jake thought about all the people who had died. Captain Rogers, Martinez, Johnson, and thousands of others. If there was a chance to stop the killing, maybe he should take it. "What would I have to do?" Jake asked. "Meet with the alien commander. Find out what she wants. See if she's serious about peace." Jake looked at these powerful people around the table. They were asking him, a simple soldier, to help save the world. It seemed impossible. "I'll need to bring Spark," Jake said. "She's scared and alone. She needs to see her mother." "That's the idea," Admiral Sullivan said. "We return the child, and you go as her escort. 2 birds with 1 stone. And if it is a trap, then we'll deal with that when it happens. But right now, this is our best chance for peace." Jake nodded. He thought about Spark waiting for him back at the research center. She deserved to see her mother again. And maybe, just maybe, they could stop the war that had already cost so many lives. "When do we leave?" Jake asked. "Tomorrow," Admiral Sullivan said. "We're sending you to a neutral space station. The alien commander will meet you there." Jake felt scared and excited at the same time. Tomorrow, he would meet the mother of the child he had saved. Tomorrow, he might help end a war. Or tomorrow, he might die. But when he thought about Spark's happy golden skin and her trusting eyes, he knew he had to try. 3 months had passed since the fall of Kepler Station. Jake Morrison sat in a white hospital bed on Earth, staring out the window at the blue sky. His left arm was in a cast, and his chest had bandages from the burns he got during the evacuation. The doctor said he would be fine, but Jake did not feel fine. He felt empty every night. He dreamed about the station. He saw the red lights flashing and heard the screaming alarms. He saw the faces of the people who did not make it out. Captain Rogers with his kind smile, Martinez with his jokes, Johnson with his pictures of his wife and baby. They were all gone now, but Jake was still here. Sometimes he wondered why. "How are you feeling today, Sergeant?" Dr. Martin Webb asked as he came into the room. He was a thin man with gray hair and gentle eyes. He had been Jake's doctor for 2 weeks now. "Same as yesterday," Jake said. "Same as the day before that." Dr. Webb sat down in the chair next to the bed. "The nightmares are still bad." Jake nodded. "They're getting worse. I see their faces every time I close my eyes." "That's normal," Dr. Webb said. "You've been through something terrible. It takes time to heal." Jake looked at the doctor. "Did you ever lose people you cared about?" Dr. Webb was quiet for a moment. "Yes," he said finally. "In the war with the Centauri rebels. I lost my whole unit. I was the only one who made it home." "How do you live with it?" "You find a reason to keep going," Dr. Webb said. "Something that makes the pain worth it." Jake thought about the small alien child he had saved. The creature had been taken away when they reached Earth. The military people said it was for the best. They said it would be studied and cared for. But Jake missed the soft purring sounds it made when it slept. He missed the way its skin changed colors when it was happy or scared. "I want to see the child," Jake said. Dr. Webb looked surprised. "The alien child?" "Yes. I want to know if it's okay." Dr. Webb was quiet for a long time. Then he smiled. "I think I can arrange that." 2 days later, Jake stood outside the Xenobiology Research Center in New Geneva. It was a big building made of glass and steel, with gardens around it. It looked peaceful, not like the kind of place where aliens were kept prisoner. But Jake still felt nervous. A woman met him at the front door. She was tall and had brown hair. pulled back in a simple style. Her clothes were clean and white, like a doctor's. She smiled when she saw him. "Sergeant Morrison? I'm Dr. Lisa Hayes. I've been taking care of your little friend." Jake shook her hand. "How is it? Is it okay?" "She's fine," Dr. Hayes said. "We've learned that she's female. We've been calling her Spark because of the way her skin lights up." They walked through long halls full of equipment and computers. Scientists in white coats worked at desks and looked at screens. Some of them stared at Jake as he passed. He was famous now, the soldier who saved an alien child. But Jake did not like being famous. "She's been asking for you," Dr. Hayes said. Jake stopped walking. "Asking for me? But she can't talk. She can't speak English, but she communicates in other ways. She draws pictures. She makes sounds. And every day she goes to the window and looks outside like she's waiting for someone." They came to a large room with thick glass walls. Inside, Jake saw something that made his heart jump. The alien child was there, but she was bigger now. She had grown in the 3 months since he last saw her. Her skin was still blue-green, but brighter. Her big eyes looked smart and curious. When she saw Jake, her skin changed to bright gold. She made happy sounds and pressed her 4 hands against the glass. Her eyes were full of joy. "She remembers you," Dr. Hayes said softly. Jake put his hand on the glass, right where one of her hands was. "Can I go in?" Of course. Dr. Hayes opened the door, and Jake walked into the room. The child ran to him on her long legs and wrapped all 4 arms around his waist. She was purring like a cat, and her skin was cycling through colors. Gold, purple, soft blue, then back to gold. "Hey there, little one," Jake said, kneeling down so he was at her level. "I missed you too." The child looked up at him with those big eyes. She made soft sounds, almost like she was trying to talk. She touched his face with one of her hands, and Jake felt a strange tingling feeling. "That's interesting," Dr. Hayes said. "She's never done that before. What did she do?" "She's sharing her bioelectric field with you. It's how her species communicates emotion. She's telling you that she's happy to see you." Jake looked at the child. Her skin was glowing brighter now, and he could feel warmth from her touch. "What else have you learned about her?" Dr. Hayes smiled. "A lot. She's incredibly intelligent. She learns fast, and she has abilities we're still trying to understand. Watch this." Dr. Hayes walked over to a computer terminal. The screen was black. "Spark, can you help me with this?" The child let go of Jake and walked over to the computer. She put one hand on the screen, and suddenly it lit up. Numbers and letters appear flowing across the screen like water. The child moved her hand, and the computer responded. She was controlling it with her touch. "Amazing," Jake whispered. "She can interface with any electronic device," Dr. Hayes explained. "Human technology, alien technology, it doesn't matter. She understands it all on some level. We think her species evolved this ability to work with living machines." The child came back to Jake and took his hand. Her skin was soft and warm. She led him to a corner of the room where there were drawings on the wall. They were pictures made with colored pencils. Some showed the space station. Some showed Jake carrying her. Some showed things Jake did not understand, but they were beautiful. "She draws every day," Dr. Hayes said. "Most of the pictures are of you." Jake looked at the drawings. In one, he was holding the child while fire burned around them. In another, they were on a ship together. In a third, they were in a green place with trees and flowers. The child was smiling in all of them. "She dreams about you," Dr. Hayes said. "We monitor her sleep, and her brain patterns show that she's dreaming about the day you saved her." Jake felt something warm in his chest. "She's lonely, isn't she?" "Very lonely. She's the only one of her kind here. She has no family, no friends except the scientists who study her. You're the closest thing she has to a parent." The child came back to Jake and climbed into his lap. She was heavier than she had been on the station, but still small and fragile. She put her head against his chest and made soft purring sounds. "She's sick," Dr. Hayes said quietly. Jake looked up in alarm. "What do you mean? Not physically sick, emotionally sick. Her species is social, like humans. They need connection with others. She's been alone for 3 months, and it's affecting her health. She doesn't eat much. She doesn't play. She just sits and waits. Waits for what? For you. She's been waiting for you to come back." Jake looked down at the child in his arms. Her skin was calm purple now, peaceful. She trusted him completely. "What will happen to her?" "That depends on the government. They're still deciding what to do. Some people want to study her more. Others want to try to send her back to her people, but the war is still going on. There's nowhere safe to send her." "Can I visit her again?" "I was hoping you would ask that. She needs someone who cares about her, someone who sees her as more than just a research subject." Jake spent the next hour with the child. She showed him more pictures and tried to teach him some of her language. Her people made sounds with their throats, but they also communicated with the colors of their skin. Happy was gold, sad was dark blue, afraid was red, love was soft purple. When it was time to leave, the child did not want to let go. She held on to Jake's hand and made sad sounds. Her skin turned dark blue. "I'll come back tomorrow," Jake promised. "I'll come back every day." The child seemed to understand. Her skin turned to soft purple, and she touched his face again. Jake felt that tingling feeling, and somehow he knew she was saying goodbye. As Jake walked back to his car, Dr. Hayes walked with him. "Thank you for coming," she said. "You've made a big difference in her life. She's made a difference in mine, too," Jake said. "For the first time in 3 months, I feel like I have a reason to get up in the morning. The nightmares? Still there. But now I have something good to think about, too." Dr. Hayes smiled. "Children have a way of healing us, don't they? Even alien children." Jake looked back at the building. He could not see the child from here, but he knew she was there, probably drawing another picture of him. Tomorrow he would come back. Tomorrow he would sit with her and learn more about her people and her world. For the first time since Kepler Station, Jake felt hope. Maybe he could not save all the people who died. Maybe he could not stop the war, but he could save one small life. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough.